Bible? Yeah! Come on, let me rephrase that. Are you guys ready to pursue?
Oh,
yeah! Okay, before I get started, I want to play a little game. And Simon says, you guys know? Simon says, stand up. Excuse me? Simon says, get up. Simon says, sit down. Get up. Get up. Simon says, get up. Simon says, sit down. Okay, so you guys know how to stand. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. And before you stand, you want our foundation to stand on. Like you can't stand if there's nothing under you. So that brings me to verse Matthew 7. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, and the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. It's basically explaining that if you built your foundation with sand, or your relationship with God isn't as strong as it's supposed to be, it's gonna fall over like nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when you fall and you have a strong foundation under you, you can get up faster.
Mm-hmm.
Those falling or the trials that come against you won't affect you as much as it did before. And when I say foundation, like to me, it's kind of like accepting God into your life. When you accept God into your life, you have that foundation already.
That's right.
You know, and you're on fire for God, and you have that foundation, and it seems like you have no problems at first.
Yeah.
And then most people that have or that accepted God right there, they're already standing bold for God. And then it seems to like most people who accept God, they start standing already, and they get kind of lazy to stand there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, my leg are hurting or something, and I guess most people pull up a chair, kind of sit down. You know, I'm tired anyway, so
Get
I might as well sit down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sit down, you're not a threat to the enemy.
That's right.
When you sit down and you're being, it's kind of putting your spiritual life into sleep, when you're sitting down. And if you sit down long enough, you're eventually going to get dragged.
Yeah.
Because this morning, before the service started, we talked about Jensen Franklin, and he was talking about how you're wanted in hell. Basically, you're a high value target.
That's right.
The devil will do anything to get to you, and it's easy for him to get to you when you're sitting down,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because you can't move when you're sitting down.
That's right.
All you can do is scoot,
That's right.
and it takes forever to get to where you want to go.
That's
When
right.
you're sitting down.
Yeah.
And as a church, if we don't stand up, because a lot of churches, they get in the habit of doing what they want and then sitting down and getting lazy with what they're saying, or
That's right.
not really putting power into what they say. So the church is not even moving either.
Yeah.
And so it's not moving, And that brings me to my next point: stand up, or slash out, And I already said you can't move while you're sitting. And that means the enemy won't go for you while you're sitting. The enemy doesn't look at you as a threat while you're sitting, because you're not a threat to the enemy while you're sitting. And before I tell you how to stand and how to stand, and I just want to tell you a few examples of people in the Bible that stood up. So first out, David. You guys know the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah.
You guys should know.
Yeah.
So it's basically a little boy that wants to fight this giant. He's like 9 feet. He's like a, giant.
Huge.
And it looks impossible. Like this little kid is looking up to a giant that's 9 feet tall. I think it's about 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And he beats and how people looked at him when he wanted to come up. He was talking to Saul before he came up, and he asked Saul like, "Yo, let me take down this dude." And then Saul said, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You're only a young man." And
Yeah.
I feel like we get that mentality when we're in church too.
Yeah.
Like we can't do anything in our schools because we're young.
Yeah.
We can't impact.
Yeah.
We can't impact the schools, and we can't impact the churches even because we're young. And another example of a person that stood up is Moses. And this Moses, this part where the part of Moses I'm talking about is when he went up to the Dead Sea and he split it. And people looked at him like, "What the heck is this guy doing? He's standing up to a freaking ocean."
Oh.
But that's a small risk you have to take. You're gonna be looked at weird if you stood up for what you believe in. You're gonna be looked at weird. No one says it's gonna be easy for you to stand up, and the enemy's gonna do everything in his power to make you sit down.
That's right.
That's exactly what he wants you to do. Sit down. And so Moses, he went up to Dead Sea and he split it. We know that story. And the next example I'm gonna use is Noah. Noah in the ark. We all heard that story. He's basically like, "Yo, give me this wood because I gotta build this ark. Make some animals on this ark." And people are like, "What the heck are you doing? It's never rained before ever." Yeah. At this point, it's like Genesis 2, I think, where it's never rained before on earth, and he's getting ready for this flood. Like Noah was told by the Lord that, there's a flood coming, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta build an ark." Like, he was told to build the ark, I think, and he gets 2 of each animal to get on this ark, and because of him, we exist today.
That's
right.
If he didn't take that risk of being looked at as an idiot or a fool, we wouldn't have been here today.
That's right.
Everyone looked at him weird. Everyone was criticizing him and asking him like, "What are you doing, bro?" And then he kind of he looked past that, and that caused us to live today.
Yeah.
And that goes for you guys too. The small risk of being looked at weird is nothing compared to the result of what you're looking for.
That's good.
And next example is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I have a hard time saying those names.
You did
So what they did is a ruler of the land at the point, I forgot his name.
Nebuchadnezzar.
He was telling like, "Bow down to me, or I'm gonna throw you in the furnace." And they're basically saying, "Wait, no, I don't want to bow down to you. I already have a God that I bow down for." And that goes for today too. People will tell you, "Oh yeah, this is cool," or "This is something you should do. This is something you bow down to," and you got to do the same thing they did. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the end of the story is that they still didn't listen, and they were thrown into the furnace. And when we were thrown into the furnace, it's kind of like a dark point in our life, But we're still bowing down to God, and that's exactly what they did. Like they looked at them and was like, they should be burnt already. And they look into the fire and they see like 4 shadows, and they're like, "Wait, did I put 3 men in there?" And the end of the story is that Jesus comes out with them. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Hanging out. Yeah.
And then, so what we got to do is stand up to the world, Stand up to the norms of the world. Stand up to the comparisons of the world. Like, you notice, like, when you're all happy and stuff, and then you start comparing yourself to other people next to you or around you, and you're suddenly not so happy anymore. Like, I got this new iPhone 6, I'm flexing with the iPhone 6, and then you see your friend, he has like the 7+. I'm like I want to give this one. And what stops people normally from standing up or standing up in church, basically, is can you put that verse up? And I think it's
Romans 1:16.
oh yeah, Romans 1:16. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew and then to the Gentile. And I forgot to say that before. That was like kind of the intro verse to stand. Like, be bold as Jesus was for you.
Mm.
And that brings me to my next point. What stops you from standing? And I think it's 1 John 2.
Yeah.
Can you put the verse up? Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, comes not from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever.
Mm-hmm.
And can you keep that up there? The first, like, what I'm trying to connect this to my sermon is these are exactly the things that stop us from standing,
Mm-hmm.
or cause us to be afraid or ashamed of standing.
Yeah.
First is the lust of the flesh.
Yeah.
And it's when I first saw the lust of the flesh, I was like, what does it mean? Right? And I looked it up, and it's what you desire, the worldly things that you desire. And a lot of us, how this correlates to us today is like I want to be popular at my school. That's lust of the flesh. Or it can even be complacency. Like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit here and do nothing. I'm chilling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And or sin in general. That could be a lust of the flesh. I want to go out there and do whatever I want without any consequences. And the second one is lust of the eyes.
Yeah.
It's what you see that is appealing. And the lust of the eyes, a lot of people fall into it, including me. It's like what you see that's appealing. And this is like the reason why our parents don't like Snapchat. Because we look at the stories and we look at everything, and it causes us to compare. Like, look how much fun they're having, and they don't have Christ in them.
Mm-hmm.
Look how much money they have, Lord. Look how much nice clothes they have, or look how beautiful they are, or something. The lust of the eyes, it causes us to compare ourselves to them.
Yeah.
Like, how come I'm not having that much fun? How come I don't have as nice clothes as them? How come I don't have as nice clothes as them, or money, or anything? And third one is pride of life.
Yeah.
And it's basically your accomplishments. So it can even be good at first. Like I'm doing this for my church, I'm doing that for my church, and I'm proud of what I do, And you should be, yeah. But the pride of life is basically giving God less credit for your accomplishments.
Yeah. Come on.
That's good.
And your accomplishments in a church or anywhere that is a good accomplishment, that's not of the world. It's not you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's through God that you accomplish those things.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we always ask ourselves, like, why should I serve at that small church? Or why should I even invite my friends to this small church? And that's where the pride of life kind of enters in. That's where it comes to strike you. And you can be taken down, or you can be kind of knocked down because you're not. And when you're standing, these three things will come at you like every day.
Yeah.
It's a daily battle.
That's right.
And one thing I have to say for pride of life is your position should not affect your posture.
That's good.
Your position, like how good you are as one thing, or how much money you have, or how much anything you have, should not affect the way you worship God or serve God
That's
in any
right.
church.
That's right. Come on, preach it.
And one thing you have to keep in mind while you stand is I have one question for you guys. Like, do your friends know you follow Christ?
Yeah.
Do they know you follow Christ? And when you stand, people will look at you weird, but that causes them to know that you follow Christ. The
good.
first thing when you're standing is you have to plant the seed in everyone's minds that, oh, I'm following Christ. And they keep that in mind, like,
Mhm.
you know, and you're proud of it too. And like the second step is to be there for them. Because you don't know what others are experiencing at that time. Like they can be depressed, they can be suicidal, and they'll be like, what do I do now? Or they're asking themselves, what are the answers to life? And most of them, they look to drugs, they look to alcohol, they look to pornography, they look to masturbation, they look to everything basically. But when you plant that seed in their mind that you follow Christ, you become one of those options.
Yeah.
That's
Like
good.
I want to ask my friend, since he like I kind of look at them as like a role model because they're always happy, they're always serving at a church, and they always seem happy. And to be at this point, you can't blend in.
That's
When
good.
you blend in with others, they don't look at you as a option. It was like, okay, I should do drugs, I should do alcohol, I should do this and that, and they don't see you in that arrangement of options because you're just like any of their other friends.
Yeah.
You know, if you blend in, then you're just like any of the other friends or any of their other options.
Yeah.
And when you're standing for so long, you know, apparently like logical sense is like your legs get tired. You know,
Yeah.
it's not even physically standing; it's spiritually standing. You get tired of standing.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, oh, I can get a break or something. It's you're fighting to stay standing. That's what you're doing. And if you're standing for so long, you know, it's hard to stand for so long. But that's not all you got to do. Like, say, sorry, can you come here for a second? So, if I'm standing for so long and this is my enemy, and I'm just sitting here, what is he gonna do? And I'm just standing there. You know, he's gonna try to harass me or do something. And that takes me to my next point: fighting stance. Can you look at your neighbor and like square up? Show them like you're ready to fight.
Ready to fight.
The world or the trials that the devil's throwing at you will knock you down if you're just standing there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, imagine like a boxing ring around me and Joey. And I'm just standing here, and I'm just doing everything. And Joey's throwing whatever he has, you know, at me because I'm just standing there. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just standing there. And you just gotta get in your fighting stance. And the boxing ring, when I say imagine a boxing ring, the boxing ring is your life.
Yeah.
You wake up every day to fight, or fight to stand up. In other words, and then in your side of your corner, basically, the corner of your side of the boxing ring is your church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're encouraging you to fight. They're encouraging
That's
you
good.
to stand up. You know, and the referee, and as the way I see it, is Jesus, because he can stop the fight no matter what.
Mm.
He can do whatever he can to stop the fight at any time.
Yeah.
And it's not even if you stand, it's how you stand.
That's good.
Yeah. Come on.
So when I was talking about earlier about your position should not affect your posture should be like, I'm ready to fight you. And I'm ready to knock you down, because if you just stand there, you're gonna get knocked down sooner or later.
Yeah.
You know, if you stand there for so long, and that's what a lot of churches do. They stand out there, but they're not in their fighting stance.
Mm.
And they're getting knocked down, and so like every time you get knocked down, you have to get up again. And that takes forever. When you get up again, you're standing up there, and they don't know how to get into their fighting stance. So they're just kind of taking these hits and then going down, and getting up again, taking these hits over and over again, and that becomes a loop. You're not going anywhere
That's right.
That's good.
if you're just getting knocked out over and over again. And a lot of churches get tired of getting up again, so they just get that chair again and they sit down. You're not doing anything.
That's right.
Thank you, Joe. So, as I conclude today, I want to play like a little activity with you guys. So, like, raise your hand if you have lied ever before. Raise your hand if you've lied ever in your life. Lied.
A fib.
Told a story.
Told a lie, yeah. Raise your hand. Okay. What do you call someone who lies?
A liar.
A liar, right? Raise your hand if you've stolen something in your life ever before. What do you call someone who stole something?
A thief!
A thief? A thief, yeah. Raise your hand if you've sinned before.
Have I what?
Sin.
A sinner. Raise your hand.
Everyone should be raising their hand.
If not, you're lying.
What do you call someone who sins?
A sinner.
A sinner? Exactly, yeah. So by self-admission and by my own self-admission, we're all liars, stealers, and sinners. And we're not really ashamed of that. You know, that's the truth. It's a fact.
Yeah.
And when you give yourself to God, or you kind of keep that posture with God, all those names disappear. You're not considered any of those names anymore. And only one name stays. The child of God.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you guys close your eyes and just you don't have to stand up right now. Just close your eyes and look down. And I'm kind of doing an altar call right now, and I want you guys to stand if you guys don't have a foundation to stand on. Like if you haven't accepted Jesus, you have no foundation. And you're just falling into nothing. And you're lost. Yeah, that's what we call lost people. They're falling into nothing and they have no foundation. And next, can you stand if you're ashamed or if you're afraid of standing up, or you already put that chair down and you're sitting in the chair. You're not really doing anything. Can you stand up if you're afraid of standing up? Or you already have a foundation, but you're afraid of standing up. Stand up if that applies to you. The third kind of altar call I'm doing is, can you stand if you have been knocked down over and over again, and you're just in that loop of getting knocked down and standing up again, and getting knocked down and standing up again? Can you stand? And through God, only you can stand for so long. But when you stand right now, it's a commitment. Joy preached last week about commitment. And when you're standing up, that's a physical kind of way of saying you're committing. So stand up if you're committing to standing up in your schools, if you're committing to change your schools, if you're committing to change the friends around you. And I just pray that we've all received this message, that we all will stand in our churches, that we all will stand in our schools, that we all stand, and people will notice the difference that we have.
Yeah.
And that we move forward as a church. And that I pray that we as a church will stand up to our schools, will stand up through you, God, because we can't do anything through you.
Yes.
And I pray that we would take the right steps to stand up. And I pray that we all receive this message, and that we won't be ashamed or afraid of standing up for you, God. That we truly surrender, that we truly commit to standing up. Because without it, we're not going to move anywhere. Other people aren't going to come here because we're blending in. You know, we're not going to go anywhere if we blend in. And I just pray that we won't blend in as a church.
Yes.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys.